So I've been working with and been best friends with Nick Logothetis for 10 years now, which is very exciting. We met at the same high school together, and we decided to form Concordia when we were still in Washington studying. And it was there that we traveled all over the place and presented the idea. And as with any idea, we heard a lot of no. And then there was a point of inflection for us both where we decided we were going to have a summit no matter what, whether 5 people came or 5,000 people came. And it was at that moment that we had a target, that we had a goal, and that we had something to accomplish. And it was with that that we were able to have the first summit. If you had told me then that people like President Bush would be participating in something like that, I would have said you were crazy. But when you can never underestimate the human will and mind when you have a target and you have something that you're focused on accomplishing.
The mission of Concordia, I mean, I know the two words public-private, but what does this really mean for the general public?
Yes, public-private partnerships are very important because there's a common ground between the public sector and the private sector. And that common ground needs to be capitalized upon. Oftentimes people assume that people talk to one another, and oftentimes that assumption is wrong. And so what Concordia is aiming to do is to bring together both sectors so that they can recognize their common value and their common interest and work in partnership with one another towards accomplishing big things. Companies in the private sector like to make money. Governments like to sustain themselves. We recognize that as a non-political nonprofit. We celebrate it because we know that that is what their interests are. And so we take what those interests are and we focus them heavily. And we focus on that middle ground between both sectors to try and address various things, whether it be something like access to capital, security, education, women's rights, all 4 things that we focused on at this year's summit. It's been a great experience. We've been at this now for 3 years. We've grown immensely, but also responsibly. We are an organization that has gone from just hosting an annual summit to now having summits around the world throughout the year, but also launching our own research team called P3 Intelligence, P3 standing for Public-Private Partnerships. Here
you've met a lot of presidents, head of states, kings, queens, out of all these people. Who are maybe 2, 3, if you can name, that really inspire you and really have helped Concordia grow?
Absolutely. Well, the first one I would say without question is Alvaro Uribe, a man who came into the presidency of the country of Colombia with incredible bravery as he tackled a brutal situation there from a security perspective, and maintaining remarkable humility, joining our leadership council very early on, and trusting 2 young 23-year-olds with his name and his reputation to join our board. I would also say Dikembe Mutombo, who is here today, a famous basketball player, also went to Georgetown University, which is where I went to school. He has built an entire hospital system in the Congo, which is incredible. So I think a lot of his stories coming out today for the session at lunch was very, very compelling. I would also have to say President Kwasniewski, because he was the first person to join our advisory board. He was the first person to sign on, and you always need that first person to sign on, and then everything trickles down from there. So it made a huge difference.
Could we maybe see Concordia in Greece?
Absolutely, we could see Concordia in Greece. I think Greece is a fascinating case study. Apart from being co-founded by a Greek person, I think Greece has gone through fascinating transition over the last few years. And there's never been a more important time to look at how the private sector can be enticed to invest in Greece, and how the government can better serve the people. And that is, I think, what is most important. But that also goes back to my point earlier about the importance of our brand and the power of that. Because as we continue to expand that brand, the better off and more powerful we'll be able to be when going to a place like Greece.